We are still in Revelation 14, and that's where we're going to pick up again this evening. We had covered the 144,000 this last week, and that this 144,000 that's seen there, verse 3, it says, "And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and elders." This is another vision of the throne room, the 144,000. And when you get down to verse 6, then it starts talking about angels. We talked about that there was 6 angels mentioned in this latter part of Revelation 14. And that first angel is one that makes the announcement in verse 7. It says, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come." The hour of his judgment is come. These angels are announcing things that pertain to the judgment. And the second one talks about Babylon is fallen, is fallen. And we talked at length about that. And we're going to talk some more about Babylon when we get to the last part of Revelation 16, all of 17 and 18. So a lot is said about Babylon. And so we'll go over that then. One thing I want to point out in verse 8 is that it says, "Because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." And here's the thought there. It's like she is the cause of many that will see doom, that will drink of the wrath of God. And so that's something to think about too. And then the third one is there in verse 9, and that's through verse 11. That third angel announces that anybody that takes that, or it starts out in verse 9 saying, "If any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God." You do not want to drink the wine of the wrath of God. That is bad news. That's being on the wrong side. And but these people that take the mark or worship the beast or his image, it says in verse 10, "He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb." And verse 11 says, "And the smoke of their torment ascends up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receives the mark of his name." Do you see how serious that is? There is no forgiveness. That's not temporary. That's eternal damnation. That's a horrible, terrible. And all I can say is that those people that are trying to take a stand against what they perceive to be the mark of the beast, more power to them. Right. Just stick to your position and don't give in. That's how I feel about it. I really think what's going on now is a precursor to what is to come, but it's just setting it up for the kingdom of the beast. And that's not good. I don't want to go there. I just do not want to be a part of that. So tonight we're going to start in verse 12, because that's where we stopped. We didn't cover verse 12. This verse says, "Here is the patience of the saints." And there's a little colon after saints, which means that here's your answer to the patience. It says, "Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus." And I'm going to bring out a couple of verses here that I feel like pertains to it. in Revelation 13, when we were talking about the beast, and it said in verse 7 that it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. He's going to make war with the saints, and he is going to overcome them. And then it tells us in verse 10, he that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. And this latter part here, it says, here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So the first verse I want to bring out pertaining to that is in Romans chapter 12 and verse 21. And that verse says, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Do you know that Jesus, when he suffered those things before he went to the cross, he went to Pilate's judgment hall. He stood before him. He didn't rebuke him. He didn't talk back. He didn't try to explain himself. He just endured whatever it was that they were going to do to him. Another verse is in Matthew 24. Matthew 24 is one of those chapters that talk about end times. And Matthew 24 and verses 12 to 13 says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Those two verses there, they are people that love God now, but when they start facing some troubles, or they start seeing all this other stuff going on, it's going to draw them away. And that's where I think, here's the patience of the saints. You just got to keep the commandments and the faith of Jesus. There's one more that I want to bring out, and that's in Matthew 16. I loved George's sermon this last Sunday. He brought out so many good things. Matthew 16, verse 25. This is where George had preached this last Sunday. Verse 25, it says, but whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. Now, you know that is a hard saying, isn't it? But really, we have to keep that mindset. Above all else, I must be saved.
Saved it, you must lay it down.
That's right. You just have to, and it's like, my mindset is that I am an overcomer. Regardless of what you have to go through. I think about World War II and what those Jews suffered. I've seen pictures, I've seen their skeleton-looking bodies, and knowing that they probably, most of them starved to death. The cold, the heat, whatever you're faced with, whatever pain you might have to endure, that by the grace of God, you won't deny Jesus. Okay, I'm going to go back into Revelation 14. Any questions there? I mean, I know that is a really hard thing, but when you think about the time of tribulation, it is said that this time will be the worst time ever. Worst. No time like it. So we can look at what they endured in World War II and think that, how could it get any worse? But I think it will be magnified. It's kind of like a multiplication thing, magnified. More people will suffer. Okay, in verse 13, it says, "And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Right blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them." As I read this, now remember, this is blessed are those that die in Christ or die in the Lord, right? It's not those people that took the mark of the beast, because there's no blessing in that. Those people are going to suffer throughout eternity. But when this is actually a good thing. They're saying it's a good thing because it says from henceforth, that they're going to escape those bad things that are to come, that others will have to suffer through. Do you see that?
Reading that henceforth.
And I just read verse 13.
13, okay.
See, from henceforth, which die in the Lord, from henceforth, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. Well, to me, that is, okay, this life is over, and all that you have it's up in heaven. I think, how blessed are they that have gone before, that will not have to go through this tribulation period. It's going to be a really bad thing, and I don't want to soften it, because it shouldn't be soft. It's a hard thing, and that it's something in my mind that we should prepared for. Something that Paul wrote in Romans 8, I want to bring out Romans 8:18. It says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." And that's what you have to focus on, that after this pain and suffering is past, that you have a reward, that there is a glorious time of fellowship awaiting us. Food for thought. Okay, now back into Revelation 14 and verse 14, it says, and I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. When it says like unto a Son of Man, I'm thinking that's Jesus. And you know, it's saying here that he's, behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one who sat. You know that he's coming in the clouds. In Acts chapter 1, his disciples that were there with him, he ascended up into the clouds, and then there appeared two angels. I should just go over there, and they said, "Why stand you here gazing up?" And then they say, he's coming back in like manner. And that's Acts 1:11, which also said, "You men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven." So that's why in our minds we're looking for him to come in the clouds. The scripture says that every eye is going to behold him when he does come. But we're going to see him in the clouds. And I wanted to bring out Jude, the book of Jude. You know, that's right before the book of Revelation. And it only has the one chapter. But I wanted to read you verses 14 and 15. It says here, "And Enoch also the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints. Don't you imagine that's going to be a sight? Coming with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. That, earlier in Revelation 14, that first angel said, the hour of judgment is come. When Jesus appeared, you know that judgment is coming. The end of Revelation 6, it talks about the great men and let me go there. It's like, hide us from his face. Do you know where I'm talking about there? Revelation 6 verses 14 through 17, it says, And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, every bondman and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Do you understand that that is a fearful thing? If you're on the wrong side, that is a fearful thing. If you're on the right side, I think of Psalms 91, where it says, Only with your eyes shall you see and behold the destruction of the wicked. Okay, back into Revelation 14, and at verse 15, that's where the fourth angel is spoken of. It says, And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And I want to say something right here in that we see two harvests here. And this one has, I think of this passage as the passage for the wheat. And the reason why I do is because as you get down, there's another angel coming with a sickle, and that's where they gather the clusters of the vine. And that verse 19 says, the great winepress, they're cast into the great winepress of the wrath of God. What I want to do is bring out to you in Matthew 13. George was speaking about the sower of the seed. This last Sunday, he talked about how that God sows the seed in our heart. And that's true. In Matthew 13, it gives us that parable of the good seed that is planted. But there is also several other parables in Matthew 13, and one in particular talks about the end of the world. And so that's where I want to go to and read you that. In Matthew 13, verses 24 through verse 30, it says, Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the household came and said to him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in your field? From whence then hath it tares? And he said unto them, An enemy has done this The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather you together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn, but gather the wheat into my barn. And in this same chapter in Matthew 13, he gives, because the disciples said, could you explain that to us? Could you give us the meaning to that parable? And that's in verse 36. They say, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. Verse 37, he says, He answered and said unto them, He that sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field, verse 38, is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. Verse 39, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. And therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. That I just read you verses 37 to 43 in Matthew 13. Why do I say that this first part in Revelation 14 is the good people? Because this parable says, let both grow together until the end. Then there'll be a separation of good from evil. And as we get into the latter part of Revelation 14, we see that this is a bad part for the grapes of wrath.